Process mapping is one of the best ways to understand the process, but you're probably wondering, where do I start, where do I stop, and how can I use this technique to articulate a process to any stakeholder? I'm Matt Adams, founder of baguru.com, and in this video I'm showing you exactly how you can tap into process mapping and the 5 levels so that you can use this technique anywhere in your work. Keep watching. It's important that we understand why we do process mapping. What process mapping gives us is an ability to see an input and an output and all the tasks in between that go through that. So if we start, for example, with an invoice from a supplier, that would be the input. The output would be a payment to a supplier. So there's usually 5 or 6 or 7 or even 30 steps in between that go through to get to the point of paying the supplier. When you first start mapping out a process, what you need to do is find the 5 to 7 top level steps that need to be done for you to achieve a very high level understanding of that process. And it needs some thought, because it's not easy breaking down something from lots of detailed steps into 5 to 7 steps, but that's your starting point. Once you've done that, you can then move on to level 2. And on level 2, we start breaking down each of the 5 to 7 steps that we defined in level 1, so that we can come up with a number of sub-processes and decision points where we're starting to identify and get into the little parts of the process where they might take different angles, for example. So the user might say, when the invoice is pink, I do this, and when the invoice is green, I do that. That's your decision point. If you want to know more about decision points, you can read my article on the basics of process mapping and the rules behind it. And on your level 2 process, you'll have around 15 to 20 steps that you'll have identified that you'll now know that they're key tasks to get in from the input of the process to the output. Then you go down to level 3. And at level 3, this is where you might start asking yourself, do I have a clear understanding of the process? Because if you do, you don't need to carry on. We've got to remember that we're only process mapping so that we can understand it. We're not process mapping into the finite detail unless we really need to. And think about the stakeholders at this point. Who are we presenting to? If we're presenting to directors and managers, we don't need to go to level 3, 4 and 5. But let's talk a little bit about level 3. Level 3 is the part where we think about whether we can split out the process. So you might have identified a key process in level 2, but we can then start bringing in some process framing. And once we've done that, we might decide that we've got one key process and a sub-process. So we might want to just focus on that individual process at level 3 stage before going down to level 4. And that's a key decision, because a lot of the time when you're in workshops or process meetings, you'll hear the word from the users, well, it depends on this or it depends on that. And we need to get through those dependencies and understand the key process frames around the process maps. Once we've done that, we really do need to start asking ourselves, do we need to go any further? Because going into level 4 and level 5, we're going to get into really large process maps. And level 4 and 5 is really more about the step by step. So I log onto a computer, I open the system, I enter my login details. And this is even something that could be passed on to a trainer, for example. So your trainers might be writing how-to documents and sharing those with the customers. And these are really your level 5 process maps. It's key to think about when we want to start, when we want to stop, but it's also key to think about who could be doing these process maps or documents that involve the tasks needed to deliver an input from an output. Thanks for watching.